Let me start with Mr. Nhleko and pick up on the issue of the 4th of December as an impossible deadline. Was the department always aware that this is an impossible deadline?
No, we are on public record as having clarified the issue and put it out in terms of processes that are related to the whole sectoral determination kind of hearings and so forth. But it takes no less than 15 days to be able to finish the process, just around the question of public hearings in particular, and so on, before the Economic Conditions Commission sits and considers the issues from such hearings with a view of making recommendations to the minister.
You say it takes 15 days for the process of public hearings, but I mean, surely 15 days, then what?
Once public hearings are concluded, the record of the hearings and deliberations is then taken forward to the Economic Conditions Commission, which then sits and considers all issues that have been deliberated, that would have been deliberated upon, and formulates recommendations for the minister to consider.
Right, let's get a view then. Mr. Ehrenreich, as the unions, then you should have been aware that the process is going to take longer than the 4th of December deadline.
Well, let me make 2 points. Mm-hmm. The first one is that when the farms were burning, everybody was so relieved that we found an agreement that could suspend the strike. And the agricultural minister's assistance in this regard, based on a mandate from government, was broadly welcomed. Mm-hmm. Now that things are calm, now suddenly this whole notion of the suspension and the time frames was not acceptable. You see, at the time, the workers had gone on strike on their own. No unions led that strikes. And the resultant chaos that we saw in the area was as a result of the unhappiness and the 69 rand a day, that's slave wages that were being paid by the farmers, in spite of what Rabie said. So you had a circumstance where it was exploding in our faces, similar to what was happening in the mines. There was an urgent intervention by all of the parties to find the solution. Government played the ball admirably, and we made progress. We felt that we could reach an agreement, and here's where there's a difference in the understanding of the agreement. The Employment Conditions Commission and the process that has to be followed is exactly as outlined by the Department of Labour, and may take some time to get that legal, technical processes concluded. But that is only one option open to us. The other option open to us is that an agreement is found between the farmers and the farm workers, an agreement that is negotiated between them. Now, already Rabie is saying there can be an agreement negotiated at an enterprise level between the farmers and the farm workers. Now, nothing in law stops them from negotiating actual wages, whether it's at the sectoral level, whether it's grapes or oranges or apples, which is called statutory councils, or at a level across the entire economy, which would also be an agreement, because Agri South Africa is a national organization representing many and most of the employers, and the unions represent at this stage, based on a request from the workers, their mandate. So they can have an agreement. That agreement can be applied without the legal processes having been followed. So there's two differences in what needs to happen.
All right.
Let me just make this final point, Kulani.
Yeah.
So once you have that agreement between the farmers and the workers, what you then do is you apply that agreement. 2 months later, whatever time it takes you to finalize the technicalities, that agreement is then captured in the law. But nothing between the parties stops them from agreeing to that. As Rabie had agreed, it can be agreed to at an enterprise level, and the law says it can be agreed at the other levels. The difference here is between actual or other wages and the minimums that are set. And so there's ample mechanisms and opportunities, and the Department of Labour is not applying their minds. They're pouring cold water onto the negotiations instead of using their office to encourage a solution. The employers are committed to negotiations. Now that the Labour Minister said this, now suddenly they're saying we're not negotiating, it's only discussions, because it seems the Labour Minister is more on the side of the farmers than on the side of the farm workers.
Mr. Nhleko, please respond. Please respond, Mr. Nhleko.
But can I also come into this? Because I think that Mr. Ehrenreich started very well in clarifying that essentially we're talking about two processes. The one process is around the review of the sectoral determination, which, in a sense, it was also a mistake to try and put that at the center of collective bargaining. In fact, collective bargaining should just simply happen between the two parties, farmers, farm workers, with their representatives and so forth, and conclude agreements around it.
So, let's put that,
and that was the process. As a matter of fact, I'm also told that there is a meeting that we are body before. To then want to suggest that the minister is then on the side of farmers than the side of farm workers and so forth. That can't be true.
But let's just
we're not negotiating with anybody here. We're in the process of facilitating a process of an agreement between the two parties, and we still stress the point. And the point that we stress is simply that the two parties must negotiate and arrive at an agreement.
All right. Because I think the point, though, is that why is the department even worried about the sectoral determination process, the public hearings? The department must be emphasizing that there are other mechanisms that can be used, i.e. the negotiations that can happen at an enterprise level, negotiations also that can happen at the structural level, as been pointed out by Mr. Ehrenreich.
We have emphasized on that point, but it is also normal and within your industrial relations, a cultural conduct that any of the parties, could it be the employer or workers, for instance, could have issues around the sectoral determination. And for ours as the Department of Labour, just like we did, for instance, I think if I'm made to understand it was 2002, that farmers themselves had issues at some point with regards to the sectoral determination, in the farming industry. And therefore we had to conduct these hearings with the view of listening out to what the issues were and so on. So it's normal. I mean, from a responsibility and a governance point of view, a department such as ours has got to react.
Perhaps we should go back to Mr. Ehrenreich so that he clarifies his statement about why you say government is pouring cold water on the possible other avenues, one, but also why you're suggesting that government is taking the side of the farmers.
What is happening in the Western Cape is not a Western Cape problem. It's a problem of farm workers across the country who can't live on the 69 and minimum wages. A minimum wage that the government had legislated and okayed not too long a while ago. Granted, the unions were part of that, and that's something that we must attend to because we're all complicit in setting slave wages for farmers, and that's got to change because the farmers have stood up and told us. But here's the danger out of that. What we've seen is the anger of farm workers and the resultant violence and chaos when people feel they're not listened to, none of which we condone, but it's certainly something we've got to respond to. We've now heard reports that's confirmed by the police that there are right-wing armies, private security companies being amassed in the area to defend the farms. They've already killed one person in the Ceres area. But all of that emergency circumstances that requires leadership and urgency is not changing the Department of Labour's focus on the matter away from a normal processing to an urgent requirement that needs to be put in place. So it's just business as usual, it seems.
Let me just welcome on the line now the chairperson of the Hacks Valley Table Grape Association, Miguel Lobsher. Mr. Lobsher, good morning.
Good morning, Kulani.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if you heard that, but Mr. Ehrenreich is making allegations about the deployment of right-wing armies that already have killed a person.
Yes, I can't confirm the person that's being killed and who killed him. But what I know is there is private companies helping to protect farm workers that want to work and producers. So those companies are being hired just to secure the workers that want to work, because what we experience is these parties being involved with the strikes and the raids, physically going onto farms and intimidating and hitting workers that want to work and physically force them to join the crowd with these strikes. That is why these companies are just assisting us. They don't come onto private property and intimidate, especially workers that want to work, and they don't want to take part in these actions that's being so aggressive and yeah.
Mr. Lobsher, again, Mr. Ehrenreich was quoted in an article as saying that there is a low-level civil war within your community. Confirm that for me.
I'm not sure what is the low-level civil war. I don't know about a war that is going on. But the only thing that's happening is people is getting intimidated if they don't want to join the crowd. Okay. So and we don't agree with that.
Let me take Eddie in the Free State. Eddie has been on the line for me for a while. I thank you, Eddie, for being patient. Hello.
Hey, thank you. Can I just say this? I'm a farmer and I'm heavily involved in labor, and all around me are BEE farms. Wilhelmina, I want to say now, has collapsed because they refuse to pick the cherries. You know why? It's their own farm. You know why they don't want to pick cherries? Nobody pays them. Can you believe this? Well, nobody's paying the staff. The staff are working for themselves. The cherries are rotting on the trees. They've got no power because they haven't paid the power. They owe 4,000 rand. This BEE farm owes 4,000 rand for power, so they've got no water. They've got to fetch water in Vicksburg. Ladies and gentlemen, please let the farmer survive. You know how you're going to make the farmer survive? Make sure that the imports don't pour in. My wife and I, and I'm genuine that my money's Karate, not even farming. I've got the best dairy in Africa. I'm not making a cent. Last year I showed 28,000. I say, let the farmers pay 1,000 rand a day if you want to.
Okay.
But then pay us. I want you and all your men to come and audit my books. Come on, audit our books and see how much profit the farmer makes. The dairy farmer, the agriculturist, the mealie farmers in my area spent 25 million last year to plant a mealie crop. You know what they got back? 16 million. Friend, the farmer is in trouble. When the farmer goes, you will have another Zimbabwe.
Okay. Let me just take Sebastian on the line from Cape Town quickly. Hello, Sebastian.
Yes, morning to you.
Hi.
I'd just like to start off by saying that 69 Rand is a disgrace and 150 Rand also a disgrace, especially if it's for a casual seasonal worker who will be out of work for some months of the year. But I'd like to address long-term considerations for the future of agriculture. There has to be profitability sufficient that both the farmer and the laborers, people who work on the farms, can get a decent return and living. And this is really what the government has to concentrate on doing. The last figure I saw was 37,000 farmers feeding a population of over 50 million. I regard that as dangerously low. The farmer Eddie who phones in says he gets 3 Rand a litre for his milk, a product which retails for 9 Rand or so on average, possibly in retail. There's too much going to the wholesale and the retail, and not enough going to the producer who's taking all the production risk. And you have to look also at his production costs outside of labor, electricity being overpriced by Eskom, fertilizer probably being too high. All these issues has to be addressed. The long-term goal has to be profitability in agriculture to give both